Okay, let me walk you through why the HP Omen 162025 model is worth a look before you click buy, especially if you've been scrolling through a dozen gaming laptops, trying to decide whether the specs line up with your actual needs. I get it, you're probably weighing the fear of dropping a few $100 on a machine that looks great on paper but ends up being a pain when you actually sit down to game or stream. In the first few seconds of this video, I want to make that decision a little easier for you, so keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's set the scene. You're a serious gamer who also dabbles in content creation, or maybe you're a student who wants a laptop that can handle the latest AAA titles without turning into a furnace. The Omen 16's core selling point is the 16-core Ryzen 9 8940HX paired with an RTX 5070. On paper that sounds like a monster, and for good reason. The CPU can juggle a game, a browser with a few tabs, and a recording program with barely a hiccup. In practice, what I've seen users mention on forums is that games like Cyberpunk 2077 or Elden Ring run at solid 6070 FPS on medium-high settings at the native 1920x1200 resolution. That's a tangible benchmark you can count on if you're not looking to crank everything to ultra and still expect buttery smooth frame rates. Now, the display. The 16-inch panel with a 144Hz refresh rate and a 1920x1200 aspect ratio is a sweet spot for many gamers. It gives you a little extra vertical real estate compared to a traditional 1080p 16:9 screen, which makes inventory management in games and multitasking a bit easier. I've tried the laptop with fast-paced shooters and the higher refresh really does make a difference. The motion feels smoother, and you can see those split-second headshots more clearly. On the flip side, the panel isn't an OLED or a high-end IPS with DCI-P3 coverage, so the colors aren't as punchy as a dedicated gaming monitor. If you're an artist who needs color accuracy, you'll probably want an external monitor for that part of your workflow. Let's talk storage and memory. 16 GB of DDR5 is nowadays the baseline for smooth gaming, but it's still a little tight if you plan on keeping a large library of games and also editing footage on the same machine. The 512 GB SSD will feel speedy for load times, yet you'll likely need an external drive or a secondary internal bay for a full library. The good news is that the Omen 16 has a spare M.2 slot, so you can add a second SSD without opening up a whole new device. If you're okay with managing space or already have a NAS for game storage, that flexibility eases the pain point. Ports and connectivity are another hidden trade-off that many people overlook until they pull the plug. HP equipped this model with Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.3, 2 USB-C, 1 with Thunderbolt 4 support, 3 USB-A, HDMI 2.1, and a full-size Ethernet port. In real-world terms, you can hook up a 4K monitor for extra screen real estate, plug in a wired headset for low-latency chat, and still have room for a mouse, external SSD, and a webcam without swapping adapters. The inclusion of Ethernet is a nice surprise for gamers who still prefer a wired connection for stability, especially in competitive titles where latency matters. Battery life is where the reality check hits hardest. With that Ryzen 9 series chip and an RTX 5070, the laptop will drain quickly if you leave it on high-performance mode. Expect around 34 hours of mixed use, maybe a YouTube binge plus a light game. That's fine if you mainly use it plugged in, which is the typical gaming setup at a desk. If you need serious mobility, you'll want to keep the charger handy, or consider a model with a more power-efficient GPU. The Omen 16's 6-cell battery isn't a deal-breaker, but it's a clear signal that this machine is built for stationary play rather than on Thego marathon sessions. Who should buy it? If you're a gamer who already has a decent monitor and you're looking for a desktop replacement that can also handle streaming, the Omen 16 hits the sweet spot. The combination of a high-end mobile CPU, a mid-range RTX 5070, and a 144Hz panel means you'll get respectable performance without splurging on a top-tier RTX 4090 class laptop, which can push the price well over $2,500. The price point of the Omen 16 sits around the $1,800-$2,000 mark, which for the performance you get is a decent value if you compare it to a small desktop build that would cost a similar amount but lack portability. On the other hand, skip it if you're after ultra-high settings at 4K, need a workstation-class GPU for heavy rendering, or you prioritize long battery life for traveling. Also, if you're still tied to a 1080p 16:9 screen and don't care about the extra vertical space, you might find cheaper laptops with similar performance that use a more common panel. Lastly, if you're a minimalist who